Hello YouTube, this is my new project. I picked this up at a local thrift shop for the grand sum of $26 yesterday. It is a 1995 Schwinn Cruiser single speed with a coaster brake. Nothing special really. It has kind of this cool sticker down there that says it was made in Taiwan in 1995, which was the centennial year for Schwinn. Other than that, it's pretty standard. My plan for this is to try to get it functional again for as cheap as possible. So we'll see how this goes, and I hope you enjoy. Alright, step one is disassembly. And I've gone and moved inside because it's 100 and something degrees out there, and screw that. So I was able to get the seat post off pretty easily. It's a little bit rusted, not a big deal, and I knocked off this seat post retainer thingamajigger, and I plan to get a quick release for that. Actually try to do this without dropping the bike. And cut. Okay, got the bicycle seat off and got some help, as you can see. Something I thought was kind of interesting, at least I didn't know about it, is I got this nut here on the front wheel off. And you have a nut, you have a washer, and you have like a thrust washer looking deal. But that's not the interesting part. But this front axle, if you can see it, it kind of got a flat on either side, and you have to align the flat to get through the gap. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get the wheel off. So just something I thought was interesting. I hadn't seen that before. Anyways, the construction continues. Alright, still working on the back wheel. So this thing has a coaster brake, and I know this deal is called a fulcrum, and you have to take that off to get the wheel off. What the hell it does other than that, I'm not sure, but I think just one screw, and I'll need a wrench on the other side. So cut while I deal with the situation. Okay, I got it off, and I think I'm gonna need a new chain, possibly, maybe, and most likely a new crank arm. I don't know how much that rust is just on the surface or not, but I don't know. We'll find out. Adventure continues. So taking the rear one off, it's a little bit more stuck, but not that big a deal because I'm so strong. And this one doesn't seem to have the spacers on it, just some nuts. Not much going on there. So, anyways, get the wheel off and take a look at the chain. Okay, so I think I found what's called the master link. I've never done this before, and seen videos. Anyways, so let's see what happens. Supposed to be able to like pry this thing off, maybe. I don't know. It looks pretty solidly riveted and certainly rusted. Yeah, I don't think this is gonna happen. Time for the drama. Nothing's happening. I'm just gonna stab myself. Next scene in the hospital. Okay, the disassembly continues. I'm trying to take these pedals off, and I was actually able to fit a 16mm just normal wrench and bust them loose. A little bit of advice here. So these pedals, the way they work is you rotate them forward to tighten them, and backwards, as in towards the back of the bike, to loosen, which is true when you have the bike right side up. But when you got it upside down, not so much. It gets a little confusing, and I was turning it the wrong way. So just a bit of advice, make sure to pay attention to that. Fortunately, I caught that before I broke any parts, so we will continue with the teardown. Okay, onto the bottom bracket. I've already taken the jam nut loose. And the jam nut rides up against this washer, which has a tooth. The tooth goes into this little slot in the crank arm. That's just to prevent the jam nut from rotating off. And that butts up against the cone here, which is also threaded. They rotate the same direction. And on the inside there, you can see is a cartridge bearing. So it looks dirty, needs some grease, but to be honest, this thing actually rotated fairly freely. So I don't think I need to replace them. I just think it needs a good cleaning and some more lube. So I'll go ahead and do that when I reassemble the bike after paint. Alright, taking the handlebars off, pretty straightforward. There's one Allen head bolt up here. It's 5.5mm. You loosen that, and once that's loose, you're able to pull the pull the handlebars right out. It has kind of a strange retaining mechanism where you tighten this bolt up here on the head, and it causes this little my camera will focus, this little slider to go up the ramp, which causes it to go in a bigger diameter and retain it inside the front fork there. Okay, continuing with the front fork removal. It's the same situation as the bottom bracket. You have a jam nut, which mates up against a spacer washer, which has a tooth, anti-rotation tooth. And I'm just going to call this a cone as well. I'm sure there's another proper name for it, but those of you in the comment section can let me know. So you just take that sucker all the way off, and what that does is it frees the fork to drop out the bottom. Not really a big deal, and the cool thing is you're able to do this, at least I was, with this bike with just a simple crescent wrench. You don't need any special tools or anything. So far so good. Okay, got the frame completely disassembled and ready to clean it. Went down to the local car wash over here, self-cleaning, so I'm just going to hit it with some of this high pressure hoses, try to get some of the gunk off and get it ready for light sanding and a clear coat. Okay, back from the car wash, and I'm going to start prepping the frame for some clear coat. Before I start though, I want to say I do got a slight cold and a little bit of a rant for those parents out there that like to bring their sick children to soccer practice and gymnastics. You just suck. Anyways, back to the bike. It does have a little bit of like grease, chain grease and stuff like that I wasn't able to get completely off just with a pressure wash. I'm sorry, it's not a high dollar camera here. So I'm going to give this Mr. Clean Magic Eraser a shot. I've used this product, I'm not getting paid for this or anything. I've cleaned all kinds of crazy stuff with this, and it works amazingly well. Even like sneakers and paint on the walls, just all kinds of random stuff. So I think it's slightly abrasive. I'm hoping it's going to be able to remove some of this little dirty spots that you see here in the frame. It does look like whoever owned this thing previously painted something that's like slightly reddish purple or something. There's little paint splatters all over the place, so I'm gonna hopefully be able to take those out with this, or as much as possible, and then I'm gonna switch over to some wet sandpaper, and I'm just gonna use some warm water and dish soap here. Okay, done with the magic erase. It actually did a pretty good job of taking off anything that was like grease or some dirt down here by the chain. It got out some marks that I thought were much deeper, but they actually just came right out. Unfortunately, the paint flakes are still there, so now I'm going to try the wet sanding it. I got some 2000 grit. I'm trying to do this on a budget, so I don't really want to work through all the different grit sizes. That and sanding really sucks, so I'm hoping this is going to clean it up pretty well. One comment about these things, that pinstriping, it's actually a decal, and I was planning on taking them off because I'm not really big on stickers, but Schwinn actually put those under the clear coat, the existing clear coat, so if I rip those out, it's going to make more issues than it's worth. So if they stay on there when I wet sand, I'm just going to leave them. If they come out, so be it. Not really looking into saving them. So off to wet sanding, and we'll see how this one goes. So I want to get some of the wet sanding activity going. If you look at the paint splatters here, I think this is going to work out just fine. I just dipped the sandpaper in a little bit of water and start sanding away. Don't want to apply too much pressure, otherwise I'm going to take off some of the yellow paint. All I'm looking to do here is kind of take off the top layer, and just like that, comes right off. So it looks like this is going to work great, and I'm not going to have to go through a whole bunch of different grits of sandpaper. Alright, finally time to clear coat. I spent a few days wet sanding and cleaning these things off. I'm really not a fan of the whole sanding process, but if you want a good final product, you gotta put in the time. So I decided to go ahead and do this in my storage shed since I don't have a garage. Got them hanging up here with some cables and taped off the bits and pieces that I don't want any clear coat on. What I end up deciding to use with this Rust-Oleum clear coat enamel, I tried to find like a more expensive clear coat, but it just seems like it's really hard to find at the local stores. This can cost me all of $4. Hopefully it's enough to finish the whole frame. So over here I got the chain guard, the front fork, and the frame. So we'll see how this goes. I'm planning to do a few coats and let it dry for about 4 or 5 days before I wet sand and polish. A little bit of a side experiment here. I got my seat post, which I was originally going to replace, but I saw that the rust is mostly concentrated up near the seat, and down here it actually doesn't look too bad. And it looks like I can purchase one of these online for about $8-9. But I wanted to see if I could salvage this. So I went out and bought some white vinegar, which I heard is supposed to dissolve rust. Bought 3 bottles of this stuff down at Walmart. Cost about $6. So I'm thinking as long as I can save this one part, then I save a little bit of money. And I was gonna try it on some of the other rusty parts to see what else I can salvage. So I'm supposed to just stick it in the vinegar. It's not diluted or anything. It's just 100% vinegar. Let it sit there for a few hours, and we'll see what we get. Okay, here we are about 12 hours later, so let's see what we got. Well, look at that. Looks like the vinegar actually did dissolve it pretty well, considering it's just over-the-counter vinegar, nothing special. So something else I did see on online is using aluminum foil to try to get the rust off. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a shot here. Hit this with a little aluminum and see what happens. So I had to reposition the camera so there you see the seat post, and you're supposed to just scrape it back and forth, just like this. Now, it's kind of hard to see zoomed in, but that's the basic motion of that. And as you can see, it does a pretty good job taking it off. Okay, so I decided to go ahead and just keep this rear hub. I did some research into the 2-speed and 3-speed hubs, and I found out they make a clicky noise in the higher gears the entire time you're riding it. Something to do with the internal paw design, and I just don't want to hear that when I'm riding a cruiser. So I ripped this one apart, got it all cleaned up here on the kitchen counter, ran some soap, water through it, and then I ran down to AutoZone. Bought the cheapest grease I could find, which is this STP here. It cost me $6. Should be good enough for this if it works on a car. At least that's what I'm thinking. So just going to slap some grease on here, put it back together, and hope it works. Alright, time for the fun part. Went out and ordered the new parts for the bike, mostly from Amazon. I found these really cool looking balloon tires with the white walls, and then it has this nice yellow highlight that I think is going to go well with the bike. It even has the cool kind of brick pattern tread, so I'm really liking the look of these. Was probably the most expensive part. Those were $25 a piece, which is not cheap. There was cheaper ones available, but I just love the look of them, and I'm happy with it so far. Obviously, I was going to need some new tubes, so I got some Kendra ones. The pair was, I believe, $11 or so. Replacing the seat. The original seat was actually in pretty good condition. I just didn't like the look of it very much. And I found this one on Walmart.com for like $17 and just really like the look. It has this cool quilt pattern and Schwinn branded on the back, and it's a Springer seat with nice chrome springs. So I'm just really liking the look. Hopefully it's as comfortable as it looks. It has really good reviews. Found some kind of matching brown leather grips. These were $9. I have to say, though, that they're actually surprisingly heavy and feel really good for the price. They look and feel a lot better than what I was expecting, so I'm pretty happy with those so far. New chain. Got a KMC with a silver plate. I think that's just going to look a little bit better on the bike since cruisers tend to be a little bit more about looks than your typical one. And I was able to find a brand new seat post clamp with the quick adjust, which I wasn't too sure I was going to be able to, because these old bikes they no longer like one of the standard sizes. But got this one for like $9 off of eBay. Only thing I don't like about it is aluminum as opposed to the old one, which was steel. It fits the bike. Hopefully it's gives me enough tension to keep the seat in place, and it even has this cool little set pin in there, which I hadn't seen before to, I guess, keep it from rotating. So we'll give that one a shot. The old one was just too far gone. The rust is too bad, and it doesn't have the quick adjust. And me and my wife kind of plan to share this bike, switch off every once in a while. So just the quick adjust makes that a lot easier. It makes a lot more sense. So next segment should be assembly and the big reveal. So I got a bit lazy filming the reassembly of the bike, decided just to show you the finished product. I'm a lucky guy in that my wife is a professional photographer, so she took the bike down to our local downtown and took these amazing pictures of it, set against some really cool backdrops. I'm just really digging how the bike looks. Has this really cool vintage look to it and feel. Definitely doesn't feel like something that was made in Taiwan in the 1990s. As far as how it rides, I've taken it on 2 rides, maybe about 15 miles in total. Those big balloon tires do really well soaking up the bumps. The single speed, as long as it's relatively flat, I'm okay with it. I'm debating if I'm still going to change that out. But overall, it handles really well. It stops when you want it to stop. No squeaks or squeals when you're riding it. It feels really solid. I'd definitely say that it's of better quality than like going down to Walmart and buying a cruiser down there for like $100. In terms of cost, I have about $180, $190 total in it. That includes the $26 that I paid for the bike at the thrift shop. Now I know you can go out to Walmart and buy a cruiser for like $99, but I don't think it's going to be of this quality. Certainly not going to have this cool look. In particular is the front fork. I really like how it has the square fork. Most of the forks nowadays are the round tubing. I think it's just a cheaper way to manufacture it. But overall, I think it came out great. It was fun to rebuild. Definitely easier than working on a car. I hope to do more in the future, and I hope you enjoyed watching.